Gravitas, co-presented by Skoda. Kushak, choose what really matters.
But here's a question for the world community. How do you punish the Taliban without punishing the people they rule? It's a tough question. We've seen how sanctions work in North Korea, in Iran. They don't just affect the regime, they affect ordinary people everywhere in the world. Afghanistan is no different. If anything, it's worse. Let me show you some numbers. 2/3 of Afghans live below the poverty line. 2/3. 14 million Afghans are on the brink of starvation. 1 million of them are children. Who can help them? Not the Taliban for sure. Let me introduce their finance minister to you, Mullah Hidayatullah Badri. He bankrolled suicide bombings in Kandahar. Now he's managing the Afghan economy. Talk about a promotion from hell. The Taliban can't even run an airport. How can they run a country? The fact is they can't. Not without help from the global community. On Monday, donors pledged $1.2 billion for Afghanistan. It's a lot of money, $1.2 billion. But it's not a permanent solution. You can't just keep shipping rice and milk every month. Aid is supposed to fill the gaps in a country's economy, not feed its entire population. So what's the solution here? Rebuild the Afghan economy. And this is where things get complicated. The United Nations chief wants to directly inject cash into Afghanistan. Listen in.
My appeal to the international community is to find ways to allow for an injection of cash in the Afghan economy, allowing the economy to breathe and avoiding a collapse that would have devastating consequences for the people of Afghanistan and possibly would trigger a massive exodus with the consequences that you can imagine in relation to the stability of the countries of the region.
Well, he's right. The Afghan economy does need cash. But there's a flip side to it. The Taliban control the finance ministry. They also control the central bank. So any cash injection will flow through the Taliban. Who knows what they'll do with this money? Maybe arm more terror groups or swindle it to fill their pockets. I'll give you an example. You might remember this Taliban leader who was interviewed on Afghan television. He said women should not be in government. They should just give birth. That same Taliban leader was at the Kabul airport. He was receiving aid shipments from Qatar. If these men are Afghanistan's best bet, the country's fate is sealed. But the United Nations does not see it that way. They say humanitarian assistance is impossible without the Taliban's help.
It's impossible to provide humanitarian assistance inside Afghanistan without engaging with the de facto authorities of the country. And I do believe that it is very important to engage with the Taliban at the present moment for all aspects that concern the international community, be it about terrorism, be it about human rights, be it about drugs, be it about the nature of the government.
Well, that's a slippery slope. Suppose the world keeps aid money flowing. It unfreezes Afghan reserves abroad. What leverage does it have left? What is stopping the Taliban from unleashing terror? Nothing. The global community is once again underestimating the Taliban. They don't want a seat at the United Nations, let me repeat. They don't want embassies or consulates. They only want money. Money to run their Islamic emirate as they please. Until now, the world could dangle that carrot. The US froze $9 billion worth of Afghan reserves. The IMF blocked access to loans worth $440 million. That tap was basically shut. And that was the world's leverage, their trump card against the Taliban. Now the UN is talking about opening that tap. Does the United States agree? Well, they're still hoping that the Taliban will reform. This is what America's envoy to the UN said. We need oral and written commitments made by the Taliban about operating rights of humanitarian agencies and the treatment and rights of minority groups, women and girls to be upheld. Words are not good enough. We must see action. What more must the Taliban do? They've shown enough action. They announced an all-male cabinet. They're putting women in segregated classes. They're bringing back public whipping. Clearly, the Taliban don't care about their promises, and this was before aid money was released. Now they have the license to go rogue. with Western money, Western weapons, and maybe soon Western recognition. How does the global community navigate this problem? How can aid reach Afghans but not the Taliban? For starters, put a pin on cash payments. It's too early to be handing out money to the Taliban. Two reasons why. One, the money will not reach ordinary Afghans. And two, it will end up boosting the Taliban's arsenal. So here's what the global community can do instead. Keep up the periodic interventions, send doctors, send aid workers until a more permanent setup can be negotiated. It's been done before. We've seen it in Syria, so it's not impossible. The next couple of months will be crucial. The harsh winter will set in. It's a test for the world. They should learn from the mistakes made with Pakistan. Don't fund terror states. Try to reach the people. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
Gravitas, co-presented by Skoda. Kushak, choose what really matters.